All of us will have some pain one day in our life, probably several days in our life. And then I think the thing is to have the work adaptable to that pain, or you can still do most of the work. People with rheumatic diseases within EULAR say, we want to work, we can do a good job for our companies, but we need some adaptations, and I think they're perfectly right. With sometimes minor adaptations they can, of course, do, and they have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge.
Our last sort of position with any employee is failure of health. So we will do everything we can with an employee to keep them active within the workplace and to help and support them before we get to that point of retiring someone on ill health.
If a person is away from his job 3 months or more, I mean, the probability that he or she will come back is rapidly decreasing. Absolutely. So keeping the person in job even for 2 hours a week is probably beneficial for the national economy and for the single company.
We do take a broad, pragmatic view to how we look after our people, and very often the cost of recruiting, training, bringing somebody through the workplace to retain them in work and manage that effectively is still far more cost effective than considering, you know, a shortcut and taking them out of the workplace. Similarly, within our production and factory environments, which are more physical, it's again making certain that we look at the ergonomics of the production line and the tools and equipment that people need.
Pauline's been with the business a couple of years now.
18.
Yeah. So having that wealth of knowledge is obviously very good for the business.
A couple of years ago, I had a bad back and was unable to work for a little while, and so we had to make some adaptations to my working to enable me to come back to work and work comfortably.
We can intervene early, which always helps to get that intervention, and then we make adjustments within the workplace, and I'd say to date we find that most workplaces can be adjusted to support the individual. We actually work quite closely with line managers, and even if someone's on extended sickness because of an illness or an incapacity, that we still connect with them on a very regular basis. The aim is to get them back into the workplace as far as we possibly can.
We did explore quite a lot of brochures and things that we could buy, but they were very expensive. We didn't want to go down that route, and so we decided to make adapt the desk.
We found one that we could actually jack up to a point where it's a standing position. So Pauline kept swapping desks.
I did need to get up, walk around quite a bit, so try and manage my work so that I would take proper breaks.
We took a step back and go, right, and we forced you to go into a place where, right, this task is about 2 hours, do that task, then take a break.
Next to my desk there's a high sort of table, and so if I was doing any written work I would just stand up and do that written work at that table.
It's often the small things that make the biggest difference, certainly for the employee. And it might be that an employee needs a headset, so they're not sort of trying to hold the phone like a cradle in their neck and get neck problems. It might be that it's a footrest because somebody's a little bit short and they need to sit comfortably at their workstation. So these things are very simple.
I did have a little twinge a few weeks ago, so it was a case of we had a quick makeshift on that. I've got a nice a cardboard box which I put on my desk just for a quick makeshift because I just needed to stand up for half an hour or so. We
also changed working hours, so we started with Pauline coming in earlier to avoid the traffic so that you had less time physically travelling. We also had reduced working hours.
If I look at one of our early adopting pilots of the UK business, we adopted agile working. Over the following 12-month period, we actually saw a lower attrition rate of people leaving the business. We certainly saw a lower sickness or absence rate over that period than we had previously. And the business performance, which ultimately is the reason we're in business, is you know, to make sure we hit our goals, was probably one of the best we'd had in many years. So now, outside of that was a very, very complex and very challenging commercial and economic climate. But for the business to perform at that level, personally, I would say was down to actually giving people a better work-life balance and allowing them to really focus on what they had to deliver.
Human resources have looked at how do we actually look at work patterns. I think the biggest obstacle was for managers to realise that they can empower their people to work away from the business, get on with their jobs and deliver what the business needs. Our return on investment has been such that we're in our 13th quarter now of growth in the company, and in this economic crisis that really is good for the company. The
great balance we have in the message nowadays is we will help you, but you also have to help yourself.
But it's about the communication. Pauline's off sick. This is the reason why we're going to have a return to work plan. We need some help and support from everybody so that when Pauline does start doing a phased return to work, that people knew what was going on. You've got tools and technology, but you can pay for those and you can easily outsource everything. But having the people and their knowledge and their understanding to be able to interpret what we do, that's where your added value works. And that's where businesses make a difference. So it's all about the people.
This charter calls and recognizes the role that policymakers, employers, healthcare providers and other stakeholders do have in creating a framework for working environment that allows people with musculoskeletal diseases to stay in work, to get into work.